Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the weekly comic book roundup, and we already covered this week's X-Men titles as well as miscellaneous Marvel titles. So let's move on to this week's Avengers titles and DC titles. Starting things off with Savage Avengers number 14. Where we'd left off, Doctor Strange had assembled the Savage Avengers, and they started on their plan. Part of their plan would include taking on an Asgardian dragon for one of the Eyes of Agamotto. And so, we learn that said Asgardian dragon is hiding in, of all places, Bruges. So we begin. A local is a local man in Bruges is immolated after making just too much noise. At the same moment, shortly after the meeting of the Savage Avengers and the planning session at the bar with no name in New York, the doorman is thrown through the door by magic. With her is Conan. Magic, turns out, wants to know the password to enter. The password, by the way, is: here's the alcohol, the cause of and solution to all life's problems. But they're there looking for none other than King Marco, the Juggernaut. And, well, let's just say that Juggernaut's not too keen on the idea of necessarily of working with magic, seeing as how she ripped the gem out of him. Though he has managed to get his abilities back, but they have gems they can use to persuade him. They have means to persuade him to work with them. But they've got one more recruit, which takes them to a Ku Klux Klan rally in the American South. Turns out, in attendance at the rally is none other than an undercover, the Black Knight, Dane Whitman, who explains as he beats the hell out of the sheet-wearing stooges that the first time he shows up means urgent care for the lot of them. Second time, they're getting rung up for a lengthy hospital stay. The third time, the sheets become burial shrouds. And as one of the Klansmen is about to shoot Dane's horse Galadriel shows up and knocks the Klansman down. And so after the Klansmen leave, Dane chops down their burning cross as magic arrives with Conan and Juggernaut. Conan does the talking, saying that Doctor Strange sends his regards and asks for Dane to join them. Dane explains that if payment is on offer, then he's being asked to do a job, and he swings his blade only for those oppressed by tyranny. So magic explains who they're up against. And an exception is made. If nothing else, if anything, Dane will be joining them. Which is actually kind of neat because this puts Juggernaut and Black Knight together again after Punisher Kill Crew. Funny enough, and amusingly enough, the Punisher is likely to also be showing up later on in the story arc. Not the issue, mind you, but the story arc. So Magic teleports the group to Bruges. They have a plan. Juggernaut's trying to suggest they have a name because every team's got a name. So he suggests the Frightful Four because you don't think anyone's using it right now. And so it's explained that there are only two known eyes of Agamotto. The third eye, which manifests knowledge, was at the moment hung around the neck of the Sorcerer Supreme. It's the eye of Agamotto that Doctor Strange wears. The first eye was lost at time. The second eye, which manifests power, was in the clutches of Sodarang, an Asgardian red dragon. He had picked the ancient city of Bruges as a place to nap. And so, yeah. Conan accosts the dragon. And we learn that the plan is for Magic to open a portal, Juggernaut to run through the portal. The portal will then open above the city, well above the city. And after all, Juggernaut's whole shtick is he stops when he wants to. Nothing can stop him other than his desire to do so. As he drops from the portal opening the sky, he sings the theme song to The Greatest American Hero, which is rather amusing to say the least. But Conan distracts the dragon while Black Knight shows up and actually takes a slice out of Sodarang with the ebony blade, which pisses Sodarang off to no end. He told the people of Bruges to leave him be and he'd reciprocate. Only a few weeks of sleep to mend his mind. Then he hears a whistling sound? And yeah, Juggernaut hits him. Apparently the impact set church bells ringing for miles in every direction. And Conan had yet to fully engage the beast. And so Sodarang is now in a human form, and he is not happy. Apparently, though, being hit by the Juggernaut falling from the sky is harder than even Thor hits. And yeah, Sodarang declares that they've made him very angry, and they will feel his wrath. Black Knight doesn't wish to kill him. Conan? Hey, let's go either way. And Magic simply says, to stick up, give with the necklace. However, Sodarang, who's Pirate Flame in both of his hands, states that it will be a singular pleasure to crack their bones and sup upon the marrow. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to Iron Man number 3. Where we left off, Iron Man was having something of a part of us could say a midlife crisis. It does seem kind of like a midlife crisis, but still not. I guess more trying to figure out his place in the world. Meanwhile, some of his villains were making a comeback, most notably Unicorn, whom he and Hellcat had fought previously, and then later at a hospital, he got loose. And that was which was where the issue actually did leave off. So we begin 42 miles outside Canyon, Oklahoma. Unicorn's running. He claims he's here and he has come to serve when he is struck by purple lightning. In New York, turns out Tony is just having his. It seems like we're seeing Tony's thoughts, but more on that later. We see some quick things. He deals with. I can't tell which villain that is. Maybe I would say Whirlwind, except that it's a robot. So yeah, Gladiator. Nobody I don't entirely recognize. Madame Mask, and he's actually oftentimes just even though he's Iron Man, he's but he shows up in front at school to, surprise the kids, and he's basically told, hey, look, we appreciate you showing up, but, we're all about structured, fun, centered, and it's learning centered, and, well, but they'd love to have him back for a specific activity. Not even drop in like this would be very disruptive. The melter, turns out, melted his car even. And, well, this led to Iron Man punching Melter, flying up with him, and dropping him. And actually hovering in the air for a moment before deciding, maybe I shouldn't have dropped the guy from midair. But he catches the Melter. It turns out he's just been venting to the clerk in a burger hut. So he orders his food, has to head to the airport, so it's got to be to go. Turns out he's flying coach. Hellcat's flying with him. No news on Unicorn, though. But Hellcat informs him on a few things that are different when you don't own the plane, and you are also riding in coach. Tony has some self-centered moments and gets told exactly where to stick it. They both talk about being dead, and Hellcat kind of drops something on him that Tony may have died before, but not by his own choice. And it explains that she got to a place where she thought the best thing for her was dying. This is apparently a reference to Hellstrom, Prince of Lies, number 14. She goes on to add that miraculously she was given a chance to see that the choice she made was wrong. But you don't really, someone isn't really all better after something like that. I think she still hears, dark voice in the back of her head. Every day is hard. Tony might not see it, but sometimes it feels like she's walking a razor's edge. And so she's not worried about others' opinions of her. Adding, going on to add that you tend not to when you're trying to preserve a ceasefire with your own mind. Also adding that, she's not, once again, she's not his life coach, Tony. Just a friend with her own set of problems. Hours later at the lightning testing site in Oklahoma, Dr. Fuller welcomes Iron Man, and is surprised that Tony has shown up in full armor rather than anything else, but he explains that by showing up in the armor, it'll afford him a closer look at his investment without getting fried. Turns out that, but yeah, Patsy's is at the hotel. She wasn't really feeling that great after all, so. And so Iron Man inspects the testing site and notes that every piece of gear is white labeled. And so he asks Fuller if the Stark name embarrasses him that much. And Fuller explains that as much as he appreciates Stark's financial support over the months, unfortunately their partnership has to end there, as he can't have the work traced back to him. And Tony is hit with a sudden blast of purple lightning. Crashing into the ground, and Fuller has 3 henchmen with him: Blizzard, Unicorn, and Controller. And he explains that Tony's a good man, but Fuller and his disciples have a higher purpose. With the power he's going to pull from the planet, he'll become a demigod. But being a demigod is just a means to an end. He plans to be God. He goes on to add that Stark's money's been useful to him, was useful as Iron Man once before Tony found Fuller. And that just can't happen. However, Hellcat shows up in a Jeep, hitting Unicorn, Fuller. Apparently, there was a guy at a gas station going on about a guy in a green mask with a third eye. Unicorn. And so, Hellcat goes out, takes on Blizzard, while Iron Man takes on Controller, with Controller stating that the 3 of them have been chosen for universal perfection. Then Fuller attacks Hellcat and Iron Man. As they're both knocked out, he outs himself as being Korvac. The armor's defibrillator manages to save Tony, and it seems, however, that Hellcat's rather badly injured, and Tony's kind of seeing it as his fault, which is where the issue ends. Which brings us to the end of this week's Marvel books, and on to Marvel's distinguished competition, DC. Starting with Punchline, number 1, the Punchline one-shot. So, for those who may be unaware, Punchline is a relatively new DC character. I haven't read most of the stuff with her. Not so much a replacement for Harley Quinn, but basically a new named hench person of the Joker's. She was involved heavily in the recent Joker War arc, and in fact did fight Harley recently. I think twice, actually. So we begin years ago. It's explained that she never saw Joker out. She was a normal kid, did everything a normal kid does, went to school, got grades just good enough that they didn't turn any heads, and sometimes went on field trips. One of these field trips was to a local TV station. Just so happens that at the same time they were there, the Joker took the place over and was going to use the newsroom to broadcast a message. First, he tried. Well, it turns out that he's Jokerized the entire everyone from the news show. So he asked the teacher to do it. And teacher doesn't do it. So Joker shoots the teacher. And one of the students is picked out of the group. And just as Joker is about to start shooting, Batman comes in, saves the day. But fast forward to now, and the judge explains to the woman known better as Punchline that, well, the tale she told is tragic. The reason she's in court is to determine whether or not she is fit to stand trial. She claims she is. And it's explained that she's being charged with multiple crimes, including possible arson, theft, more assault charges than the judge has time to lay out. But she should be most concerned about the conspiracy charge, which if the DA proves her to be an accessory to the Joker, that makes her accountable for all of the Joker's crimes in addition to her own. And Gotham is in a state that does uphold capital punishment. Joker might have a long-standing Arkham ahead of him. But if Punchline stands trial, the state will not be so lenient with her. So the Punchline says she is aware. So the judge asks, this is your life. Why are you so eager to gamble with it? And Punchline stands and says, because I'm innocent, which throws everyone for a loop. And so Dr. Leslie Tompkins is called up, asking if Punchline is of sound mind and body. And Tompkins explains that the brief session with Punchline, Alexis K, by the way, she was found to be a complex girl, and while Tompkins thinks it's likely that she's lived with an undiagnosed personality disorder for most of her life, only further complicated by compounded PTSD from trauma suffered. Well, she gets cut off by the judge, basically saying, "Hey, is she going? Will she be able to give and provide a full and reliable testimony?" And Tompkins says, in her professional opinion, yes. And so outside the courtroom, Leslie Tompkins is with Bluebird, a member of the civilian identity of Bluebird, one of the various members of the Bat family. And Bluebird asks what Tompkins made of the show. Tompkins says she doesn't know, but Punchline's up to something. But something's up. Maybe not another attack on the city, but so maybe let's not light the bat signal. But let's keep a bat on retainer for the moment. And so Punchline's loaded into a GCPD prisoner transfer vehicle, and it turns out the officers driving are part of Joker's army from Joker War. And they ask her if there's anything they can do for her. She says it's time for her to go live. And so she basically does a live stream explaining who she is. And she's a victim of the Joker, and she saw Joker as a symbol of how they need to tear down the system they had so they could build something new. She wanted to believe in that symbol. She didn't kill anyone, but she didn't stop him from doing it either. She was so... And yeah... Bluebird, Harper, comes home seeing her baby brother, Cullen, watching her live stream. And Cullen asks Harper what she thinks, and Harper does think something's off with her. Something just wasn't right about everything that was said in court, and so, yeah. So, turns out that but Cullen's staying in for the night, so video games and pizza rolls, while playing Call call to honor. He's talking with with a fellow game. He's talking with a fellow gamer, and turns out that Punchline has had a podcast years ago. Looking at, talking about the various, some of the various points in Joker's life, and it becomes pretty clear that, there was a definite interest in the Joker long before she became Punchline. There's, the Reservoir, Arkham, the Laughing Fish. The trademark of the Laughing Fish is apparently owned by Gotham, and in fact, Gotham itself, at the Gotham Aquarium, they sell a plush version of the fish, which of course the city receives a kickback from. Amusement Row. Apparently, she has managed to read the police reports, at least what was available of them. But she doesn't know what happened, only that it had something to do with Batman and Commissioner Gordon. Her guess is that she made the powers that be in Gotham laugh for once, and, well, they couldn't let the world know about that. But it's the... he did make Batman laugh. But yeah. But it's the amusement park from The Killing Joke. But we also see her briefly, presumably at the amusement park, killing a rat in the remains. Also, apparently, the amusement park from Killing Joke is still owned by the Joker. Every few years, the city tries to seize it, and it never takes, though. But Cullen's listening to the podcast, and we learn, it's explained that apparently, Cassandra Cain murdered Harper and Cullen's mother while brainwashed, but yeah. And Cullen sees the fact that Harper's willing to let Punchline potentially go to prison for conspiracy charges, meaning for all the crimes Joker committed during Joker War, as ruining someone's life for crimes they didn't commit. Simply because she's a victim of someone Batman could have stopped 100 times by now and hasn't. But after the argument with between Harper and Cullen, Dr. Tompkins calls Harper when the trial starts tomorrow, and she has a sense that things are going to be rocky. Adding that, and Harper says, hey, if you need me to come with you to the courthouse tomorrow, I will. But Leslie explains that it's not Harper that she needs. Gotham, however, may need Bluebird. Meanwhile, Cullen is convinced to meet his gamer buddy in Gotham the next day at the trial. And he listens to the 52nd and final episode of Punchline's podcast, where she outs herself as Punchline, where she adopts the identity of Punchline. We then see the spreading of Joker poison in various places by seemingly Punchline. Office buildings, among the homeless, subway cars. A very bougie restaurant, and when someone's not laughing at when someone's clearly affected by the toxin but not laughing, she goes to stab them and imagines Joker guiding her and basically, explaining that she doesn't have the formula just right. But he can help her make it better. But she explains it to her, the delusion she's imagined of the Joker, that she thinks they can help each other. Meanwhile, the next day, Harper, suited up as Bluebird, is at the courthouse. But Leslie's stuck in traffic. Car's at a standstill and she can't see what's going on. There are a ton of people, however, at the courthouse. Cullen meets with Bluff. And Bluff hands him a Joker mask, or a clown mask. Dr. Tompkins' driver explains that they think they're as close as they're going to get. And the phone rings, and she figures it's Bluebird, so she asks there's a clearing, but she's told that there are no birds or bats there. It's Punchline. Stating that, and Tompkins says that they probably shouldn't be talking like this, not with the trial ongoing. But Punchline wanted to thank Leslie. If Leslie Tompkins hadn't said Punchline was mentally fit, they would have just put her in Arkham. And so none of what's about to happen will be possible. Because people tend to stop listening when they think you're crazy. Tompkins responds that, don't have to worry about people listening now. Apparently her podcast has over 1 million subscribers. And Leslie explains that she listened to the story of a young girl becoming enamored with a very dangerous man and a very dangerous way of thinking. And she's afraid that what that might do left unchecked. And Punchline says that they guess they'll just have to find out. With Dr. Tompkins adding that the city has witnesses people who can place her committing the crime she claims she didn't participate in. But maybe not, as we see quite a few deaths occurring, all by other members of the Joker's unknown army. Well, occurring or being cleaned up. And she's brought into the courthouse in full costume. Everyone watching. People holding up signs, chanting "Free Punchline." Cullen takes Bluff's hand briefly, looks up and sees his sister, and then puts the mask on. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to what was quite possibly the funnest book I read all week. Dark Knight's Death Metal. Infinite Hour Extreme with 3 X's. So, those of you who've been watching for the last few months and caught the rundown, caught my review, me covering the various issues of Death Metal, may remember that Lobo was involved early on. We really haven't seen too much of him over the issues. So we begin at a bar you wouldn't want to be at, in a part of the galaxy you wouldn't want to be in 6 months ago. Lobo wants a drink. Asks the bartender why. He needs a drink. Turns out, though, that Lobo destroyed the bar, beat everyone to death for one thing, and For another thing, he used the bartender's arms to do it. He finds, and it turns out his bounty was there, so he finds him and begins to head out, only to be attacked by the Batman who frags. Yes, a Dark Knight who is basically a combination of Lobo and Batman. Turns out in his reality, Bruce Wayne shot himself up with, injected himself with Zarnian DNA, and in the process added Lobo's strength and healing factor to his already impressive skills and fighting prowess. Yes, I'm just going to go ahead and show you that. The Batman who frags. But, yeah. So, Lobo and Batman who frags duke it out. And just as Lobo's about to gut the Batman who frags like a fish, he gets pulled through a portal. Sans bounty. Where he meets up with Lex Luthor. Lex is there to hire Lobo, after all. And let's just say Lobo ain't happy right now. But Lex explains what's going on. You know, and it's basically, hey, if you fail this mission I'm about to give you, everything ends. And I mean everything. And Lobo kind of thinks about it, like, and everything. Okay, well, that's a lot of crap I can't stand, like Superman, every kind of Batman, Guy Fieri. However, on the other hand, I'll also be turns with stuff I do like. Babes, dolphins, brew, myself, money. Can't very well see dollars if everything's gone belly up. So, he's got to go find death metal. And Lobo wants to make sure he'll be well paid. And he's in. Yeah, once he's told yes, once Lex tells him yes, you will be well paid. He's in. He's got a bike. Elsewhere, the Batman who frags, well, he's going after Lobo on his bike. Also, it turns out his bike has his Earth's version of the various Bat villains chained to the back. But he explains he doesn't send anybody to Arkham. He sends them to hell. And so, on Black Hawk Island, right now, Lobo is trying to find death metal, and he runs into Black Monday, the combination of Solomon Grundy and Batman. They duke it out, and Lobo drops a building on him. Or, well, part of a building. Eventually he finds what he presumes to be death metal, but, of course, it's just the box. You don't leave my just lying around. And Hawkman explains that, yeah, that you know, hey, it's true, you don't. We hid it. It's been hidden somewhere safe, and so they go to find it. But they are being attacked by yet another Batman. They go they take the death metal, go through a portal. And, yeah, end up on Gemworld. But Lobo's got the death metal. And so he starts thinking stuff, and, well, hey, the metal makes it happen. We get The Legend of Superman by Lobo and Lobo. Just before the dweeb planet Krypton exploded into fragments, a super geek blah 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 boring. Also, Legend of the Batman by Lobo. Wonder Woman by Lobo. Yeah. Apparently, and he, you know, it's the best sitcom he's seen since The Walking Dead. Lobo Land, a whole pocket verse for him to rewrite. All he's got to do is think of the death metal, and all his awesome ideas come to life. Brainiac shows up, however, having been freed from Perpetua's throne in last week's issue of Justice League. And Lobo uses the death metal to make Brainiac appear like his fourth grade teacher, Miss Tripp. Gets some guns out. He's taking out Brainiac. Finds, just the extreme enough gun. That's extreme with 3 X's, just like the title. And he's attacked by the Batman who frags again. And so, Batman who frags gets sent into the little pocket universe of Lobo Land. And Brainiac is put back to normal. And so, yeah. However, before handing over the death metal to Brainiac, Lobo realizes he thinks he's having the most extreme idea yet. However, the epilogue, with the story of the death metal will continue, of course, in death metal number 5. The epilogue sees the Batman who frags arrive in Lobo Land, where he has to deal with the Justice League of Lobo, with the Logo League of America. Or, I don't know, Justice Lobo League? I don't know. You get it. It's the JLA as versions of Lobo. Cigar chomping, face tattooed versions of Lobo. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final book of the week. American Vampire 1976, number 2. Where we left off, former vampire Skinner Sweet was being recruited to steal a train car, which had on it, among other things, a map to the where the Vampire Council is. There were other goings on as well. Issue 2 begins with Skinner telling a story. The legend of famed frontier lawman James Jim Book, as so colorfully depicted in the famous novel Bad Blood. Jim grew up in the lawless years following the Civil War, and from a young age all he wanted to be was a lawman. On the other hand, his adopted brother Skinner Sweet grew up with a penchant for outlawry. As men, the brothers became sworn enemies, and the story of their war was the stuff of Wild West lore. In the end, though, Skinner was taken down in an epic last stand, and so ended the legend. But the thing about legends, kids, is most, if not all, have a second ending. With Jimmy, this has to do with a small fact that wasn't in Bad Blood. Around the time of the last stand, Skinner was infected with vampire blood. And he became a new kind of vampire, American vampire, and years later Skinner returned and infected his brother too. But Jim didn't take to it, and with the help of his lover Adelina, he opted out with a gold bullet to the noggin. Which, that's not so fun to read. But for Jim Book, things just kept on going. After Jim's death, Adelina became an agent for the vassals of the Morning Star, the lawman of the monster world. One day, she stole the most ancient blood in the world from their vaults in Cairo and used it to bring Jim back to undead life. It took years for him to heal in Adelina's basement. By the time he was well, Adelina was in the ground, so Jim returned to what he loved best. He joined the vassals and became a lawman. Apparently for the past few years, he's been fighting the good fight with Pearl Jones, another protege of Skinner's, which is enough for Skinner to say that Book's story, like some odd legends, has that rare second twist ending. The big me ending because, well, he's the one who has to put up with Jim now. After Jim Pearl has, after all, recruited Skinner and said, well, here's part of their gang, Jim, your brother. But it turns out Book was actually kind of curious as to how it is that, Skinner actually managed to steal train cars back in the day. He explains wallet holes. Turns out what they do is they blast a pocket tunnel inside an overpass. The tracks back then, the steam train rails like the Freedom train is on. They were easy to swap out switches. So when a train passed through, they'd sneak on, sever the last car, and shoot their own personal switch. And the car would then roll in their pocket tunnel, like a coin fell through the hole in your wallet and into your pocket. By the time folks realized that the car was gone, they wouldn't know where to look. Turns out Bush's Sundance changed it to hole in the wall, but Skinner invented the concept. As Skinner is no longer a vampire, Pearl suggests maybe she should be the one that shoots the switch, just because, But Pearl and Book talk about things. Pearl's convinced that Skinner's a lost cause. Though Book thinks that he's a dark one, but before he can finish, she interrupts, saying that she's cutting ties. There's nothing there anymore. Adding that Skinner's a little salty about the whole, need help making the shot. Explaining that the only way he ever misses a shot is if he wants to. Only he does miss the first time, but he is able to get it a second time, and it's able to work out the way it's supposed to. In New York, two more members of the Vassals of the Morning Star waiting to speak to a third. Apparently someone's been killing members, high-ranking, important members. And it's beginning to look more and more like the elder races are coming together under someone. In D.C., a member of the Secret Service, Agent Bixby, is speaking with President Ford when an entity called the Grey Trader shows up. And this spooks Bixby, who explains that he's been doing exactly what the Grey Trader asked. And yes, actually Bixby has been. But Bixby says, hey, whatever you need me to do, I'm ready. Just go away for right now, okay? But the Grey Trader adds that, apparently the Grey Trader being actually his mother. Remember when I used to ask you to hide during the bad season? The cold days in the Depression in their shack. And Bixby would hide in the cabinet under the red and brown blanket so he couldn't see or hear. But Bixby did see, didn't he? Apparently, to get by, sometimes she would lie with people. And so sometimes, yes, Bixby would see them on top of her, grunting and rutting, making her cry, making her bleed. And the Grey Trader's true form is somewhat revealed, but Bixby always stayed in that cabinet, no matter how much he may have wanted not to come out of it. And because of that, they made it through everything, and they got enough. They got away, and Bixby became an all-star quarterback, a hero, a Secret Service, and he bought his mom a nice house in Patagonia with a gazebo. It's got a fire pit even. No more cold for them, not ever. All because he stayed hidden. And it turns out that the beast has put something in the fluoride in the water supply, so there are a lot more allies out there than they realize they have. Allies that don't even know they're allies. And eventually, the beast and all the others will rise. But he claims they'll stay hidden. And something saw this meeting and reports back. In New York, the two members of the vassals find the deceased member, or find the member they were waiting to speak with, skinned except for his hands and head, also with a leg cut off. Another says, the tongue doesn't want attention. But someone's willing to get the tongue's attention. A sudden realization hits our two agents that maybe Dracula's back. Back with Skinner, Pearl, and Book, they're trying to find out where just what it is within the car that has the map of the council. They were told to be marked. Apparently, the case that's marked contains George Washington's farewell address. Pearl adding there's a legend in the BMS that some of the founding fathers had dealings with elder species. However, there's security aboard the car, and they show up, pull their guns on Pearl, Book, and Skinner. So, Pearl and Book pop their fangs, and guards, turns out they're affiliated with the tongue and the beast. And they turn and simply say, "Hail the beast." And that is where the issue ends. And that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.